Thank you for joining us today at Miniature Wargaming Labs. In this bargain workshop episode, we're going to talk about the New York Brownstone building that you can find on Thingiverse. It's a 3D printable file designed by Terrain, the number 4 print. So Terrain 4 print. Now, what I wanted to do is compare this with a remix of this design developed by 3DP Design Lab, a designer named Aaron there, who we interviewed on one of our recent podcasts. So this is Terrain 4 Prints printout. So this is the back of the Brownstone building. Now, the reason we started with the back of the Brownstone building is that this is the simplest design to print out in the fastest amount of time, and he doesn't have any pictures of the different miniatures lined up to it, so it gives us a chance to see what he's sized it for. So what I want to start is I've got one of my Spectre miniatures, 28mm true scale models, and you can see this is coming out to be slightly big for him. So knowing that, what this terrain is really good for is Batman and MCP. I like to use doorways are a great way to size up how the miniature will look. So we can see in the O scale 40mm range and in the 35mm range, those models look good. However, when you look at it from the terrain that comes with Marvel, which we've done other videos on and commented of how the terrain for Marvel Crisis Protocol is really scaled for 28mm, which is why I like it. We can see that this building is a touch too big. So tried a couple different size rescalings. So we've got a 70% of the original file and a 60%. And this gave us a chance to determine which would be the best scaling for it. So we can see the 60% works. The doorway is still kind of small, but it could work. The best one found for 28mm is the 70% scaling. See, the Spectre guy works, trash can, cars look normal, and so do the street lights. And at the 70%, it still works for Batman and Marvel Crisis Protocol. However, one thing I will say is that when you get these buildings, they are shells. There's a front and a back half. So let's get front half. And so you can see what you're supposed to do is print these off, put them together. This is good if you've got a smaller plate and you're trying to print them out. You don't have to slice it. However, you can see what happens. These little pin connectors, they're right there. Now on the full scale print, as Terrain 4 Print designed it, perfectly smooth wall. However, when you scale it down, at least on our slicer, you can see the shadows of the inserts. And when you scale it down and try to use the little inserts and the pins, they really don't fit that well. I would just glue it together as is. You're still going to see the mold line regardless of it. And you can also see that this is modular. Create levels. I love these little pyramid designs. They catch here. There's also the little slots there. Catch down here. Holds it all nicely together. The stairs are done separately to make it easier on your print. And what this also allows you to do is if you only wanted to do a block of buildings, just the front half of it, this is modular enough to allow you to do that. But the reason I wanted to compare it to the remix is I asked 3DP Design Labs to print this off for me, and they came up with some tweaks to Terrain 4 Prints, and this is what they made for me. So you can see this is a 12-inch by 12-inch board. I have 3 buildings, Design A, Design B. Terrain 4 Print also has a Design C. It just doesn't have the front door. It's made to be a connector to get a double wide brownstone. I just wanted as many doors as possible for you guys to go in and out. Now you can see that on the 12 foot by 12 foot, I can actually model this to the board, design a little sidewalk, put my little greebling in. Still works for my little models here. That's great. But I also left the modularity. And so in the original terrain for print, it was basically a hollow core. What 3D Design Lab did was install a floor. So this will allow me for games of Reality's Edge, or gosh, any game, Batman, of where I can go inside, and I'll probably cut these windows out so I can get true line of sight here. But you can see the integrity of Terrain for Print's design was kept in place. Now, since they have a larger Prusa bed, if you got the larger bed, you can print this all as one unified design. So there's less pieces knocking about, or you don't even have to glue them together here. So one thing I wanted to point out is that there are two types of levels. The lower level and the intermediate levels, say the second floor, don't have this pin. The third floor has this pin right here so that the roof connects and locks and doesn't slide around. Just so if you're printing them off, look for which level you're printing on. It'll still work. It's just a little extra touch to keep it snug in there. And since these are below 6 inches for my storage cabinets, I can disassemble them. I can combine them in multiple different ways. I can build a little wooden fence in the backyards here so all my little people could fight. I primarily wanted this for NYC Street Wars for 1970s New York City. And given the length of time these brownstones have been around, you've got 100 years of possible gaming use and time range that you can use. All you have to do is just swap out which kind of trash cans and light features that you have here. So either one is very well done. I like the 3D Design Lab one just because there's less pieces to mess with, but you will need a larger 3D printer. Very beautiful designs by both designers. I'd like to credit Terrain for Print for putting a lot of work into getting this together, and 3D Design Labs for just adding some of those little touches that make it more gaming table friendly for me. Alright, well, thank you for joining us at Miniature Wargaming Labs, and we'll see you next time.